Okay, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So now we are going to enter a new chapter, application of differentiation. So what you have already learned in chapter 9, differentiation, will be applied in chapter 10 as well. So talking about application, obviously, it is about a real life problem. Okay, so basically for chapter 10, we have two main subtopics, which is we have extremum problems and rate of change. Okay, for extremum problem, we have three pecahan lah. We have a critical point, which is and then we have extremum point, and then we are going to find optimization. So for this video, we are going to focus on these two parts. Okay, how to find a critical point and how to find extremum point by using first derivative and second derivative. Okay, so let's take a look on our first here. Okay, so 10.1 extremum problem. So what is a critical point? So basically critical point is actually a stationary point. Okay, kita kadang-kadang panggil critical point, kadang-kadang kita panggil stationary point. It is the same thing, and kadang-kadang juga the question can say turning point. Okay, turning point. So how to find apa sebenarnya beza turning point dengan critical point? Okay, and how to find a critical point and stationary point. So here we have to find critical point. To find critical point is actually, okay, this is a very important part here, is where to find critical point, basically what you have to find is your first derivative equals to 0. Okay, that means you have to find your first derivative dy over dx and then equals to 0. And then also, if the question asks to find critical point, dy over dx is undefined. Okay, where dy over dx is equals to 0 and also dy over dx is undefined. What does it mean by dy over dx is undefined? So for this part here is when for case fx over gx. Okay, we're going to see this type of question lah nanti. Okay, so second thing here, let's say if you want to find a stationary point, which is the same thing, stationary point, tapi stationary point biasanya hanyalah dy over dx equals to 0. Okay, equals to 0. So basically how to find a stationary point is your first derivative equals to 0. So now let's see what is the difference between critical number, critical values and critical point. Okay, so we have a critical number. So critical number is basically this one. You have dy over dx equals to 0 and then you find the value for your x. Okay, which is we are going to find x is equals to, let's say we put it as a constant c. And then we have a critical value. Your critical value is basically the value of y. Okay, y is equals to sub your value of x here. Okay, and then your critical point is basically just a point lah. Kita tahu critical point, kita tahu point ialah x dengan y. So we are going to have c and our y. Okay, so that is the difference between critical number, critical value and critical point. Okay, so let's just go straight to example 1. The question said find the stationary point and stationary value of the function y. So we are going to find, so here the first tab here, stationary points and stationary values. Okay, stationary points, you have to have your x and y. Stationary value is basically this one lah, y kita kat sini. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to find your first derivative. Okay, so dy over dx is equals to, just differentiate this. This one should be for x cube, for x cube. So you will have 12x squared plus 30x minus 18. So that is your first thing. Whenever the question said find stationary point, critical point, this is the first thing that you have to do. Okay, and then we know that our dy over dx is equals to 0. Let's say first we have to find stationary numbers. Okay, stationary number. So we want to find stationary number, we have to let our dy over dx equals to 0. So that means we will have 12x squared plus 30x minus 18 equals to 0. Okay, remember whenever you have a quadratic equation, must be simplified first. So we can divide everything by 6. So you should have 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals to 0. Now we can factorize this. So you should have 2x minus 1, x plus 3. Therefore, you will have x is equals to 1 over 2, x is equals to negative 3. Okay? So this is your stationary number. X equals to 1 over 2, x equals to negative 3. Now we are going to find stationary values, because if you want to find stationary values, you have to have your stationary numbers. So to find stationary value ialah nilai y kamu. Stationary value. So basically we are going to substitute our x, what we have here, into this function here. So basically when x is equals to 1 over 2, we are going to substitute into this function. So you should have 4 1 over 2 cube plus 15 1 over 2 square minus 18 1 over 2 plus 7. So that will be 9 over 4. Okay. And also there are the number negative 3. So substitute here negative 3 cube plus 15 negative 3 square minus 18 negative 3 plus 7. So that will get you 88. Okay, 88. Okay, make sure kira dulu So you have your critical numbers, you have your critical values ataupun stationary numbers and stationary values. So we can get our stationary point. So our stationary point is basically just 1 over 2, 9 over 4, and also negative 388. Okay, so that's going to be your answer. So very basic, how to find a stationary point. Just find your dy over dx equals to 0. Find your x, critical numbers, and then sub into your function, your original function. Then you get your stationary points. Okay, so now let's see example 2. So here you can notice what is the difference between stationary point and critical point. So as I said here earlier, to find critical point, dy over dx is equals to 0, just the same like stationary point, but here we have additional information here. Dy over dx is undefined, okay, for case fx over dx. Okay, so now let's see, find the critical point of function fx. So you know that the first step that you have to do is differentiate. Okay, so kita simplifikan. We have fx equals to 2x squared minus 9 negative 1. Okay, so we are going to use power rule. Okay, janganlah guna quotient rule. Kamu hanya menyusahkan diri kamu saja. If you have constant here, you can naikkan atas ni and then we can just use power rule. So the first derivative here, power rule ada 4 step. Power pindah depan, salin balik, power minus 1. So that's going to be minus 2. And differentiate dalam. Okay, so the answer here should be negative 4x over x square minus 9 square. So that is your first derivative. Okay, to find your critical point, your first derivative is equals to 0. So we have f prime x equals to 0. Okay, that is the first thing to find critical point. So therefore we will have negative 4x over x square minus 9 square is equals to 0. So the whole thing bawa pergi sebelah akan jadi 0. So negative 4x equals to 0. Then you will have x is equals to 0. Okay, but remember, if you have fx over gx, you have to consider the other value, which is, the other information, which is f prime x is undefined. Okay, so take a look at your f prime x. Here, this is our f prime x. F prime x will be undefined when this equals to 0. That means your x square minus 9 square is equals to 0. So then here you will get x plus 3, x minus 3. Okay, square bawa pergi sebelah akan jadi square root 0 akan jadi 0 lah. So that's gonna leave us just x square minus 9. So here you have x equals to negative 3, x is equals to 3. So talking about critical numbers, you are going to have 3 critical numbers, 0, 3 and negative 3. Okay, please don't forget, if you have fx over gx case, please don't forget your f prime x undefined. Okay, so now, as I said earlier, our critical numbers is basically x equals to 0, x equals to 3, and x equals to negative 3. Okay, but now we want to find our critical value. Okay, untuk cari point, kita kena ada value y kita. So just substitute. When x equals to 0, substitute into the original function. So that's gonna leave us 2, 0 square minus 9. We're gonna have negative 2 over 9. Okay, so we know that if we substitute this into this, you are going to get 2 over 0. That means your fx will be undefined, obviously. So apa jadi ni? So that means your f3 is undefined, and your f negative 3 also will be undefined. Okay, obviously lah. So that means we only have one critical point. Critical point of fx is apa? What is the value of our x? 0. And the value of y is negative 2 over 9. Negative 2 over 9. Okay, so that is how we find our critical point and also stationary point. Okay, moving on to the next video.